Well, to start speaking into what exactly exactly what this will entail, we will be bringing in our guest to be able to speak into just what exactly saying inclusion and devolving of resources means. We are also, of course, learning that the Prime Minister of Israel, that of course is Benjamin Netanyahu, is right now arriving at State House, Nairobi. He, of course, did not attend the event in Kasarani, especially because of concerns over his security. Of course, after the crowds breached the police cordon, we are told that he will be arriving shortly, and will, of course, continue to bring you those pictures as they do continue. Well, back to our guest right now. So, very quickly, entrepreneurship, inclusion, what exactly will that entail?
Post the inauguration of the president,
yes,
everyone has been waiting. People want to gear back to business. The whole election story has been such a fatigue for many Kenyans. Businesses have been bleeding heavily, and they've been waiting for such a time. So entrepreneurship, as the president rightly said in his speech, will be a key focus for the whole country, regardless of where they are, regardless of their political divide, because people have to put food on their tables. So the focus that the president has, I want to assume that he will use the infrastructure of some of the organizations that have been set up, your youth fund, your women fund, your Wezo fund, figuring out modalities that some of these funds can actually work. They have, their intent of setup is good, but sometimes the mechanics of how they run is something that we can be able to always improve upon. But bottom line is the economy needs to go on. People need to keep running their businesses.
If you're a youth from one of the disenfranchised areas, and indeed a youth from any of the other areas, and you have no skill to speak of, you did not get much in terms of learning, your health is not, well, all that. So if physically you're not a guy who can do the mjengo thing day in and day out and still hope to, well, survive, what are the options that you're looking at? Because maybe you thought that this election would be what will, so to say, sort of set you free or give you a path going forward. What should they be looking towards?
After the elections have been concluded, a couple of options are now open. One, you'll find contractors who are running businesses in different places. You are doing a road, you're doing a certain project. There'll be a probability that you will now embark back on your work. One thing that has happened is that many ministries, many county ministries have already been set up. We hope that soon most of the counties will get the disbursements of the monies that is apportioned to them. And the county executives have set up, so there'll be a bit more money going around. So this particular youth can now get more opportunities for employment within the counties. That's A. B is setting up of small businesses. One of the things that I hope that the government will do is still keep putting a conducive environment to ensure that you know, the young people can be able to still get access to business and business opportunities. There've been a series of government projects that have been going on to try and enable young people to not feel disenfranchised and actually participate in economic activity.
Let's talk about two things. First, access to credit.
Yes.
And secondly, skilling up people who, for example, you have learned at a village polytechnic, you are a mason or the guy who does the welding and that sort of thing. When the Chinese contractor comes to your area, he wants a guy who can weld underwater or a guy who can put plumbing up 16 or 20 stories. You don't have the skills. So where does upskilling these people come in? And then the provision of things like credit at certain levels to enable them start acquiring the equipment that they need to undertake these big projects. And then the organization, because if they did come in together as a cooperative or a self-help group, then all of these things might be very easily forthcoming.
Let me start with the conversation on credit.
Yes.
Credit has been a big challenge in our economy. Capping of interest rates made many banks stop lending, which I feel is a bit unfair because they are still making massive profits. But what has happened essentially is that it has opened up a new frontier, which is the SACCOs.
Yes.
The SACCOs today are opening up more and more accounts. They are being reached by more and more people in our societies. And also it's brought up a new guy called the Shylock.
Yes.
Right now, if you go to any key street in all the countries, you'll see Shylocks putting up bigger and bigger billboards, putting up. So,
and just to interrupt you right there, we have organizations like Branch, we have this M-Pesa thing, M-Shwari and the like, who also starting to come out in big numbers to start lending to these Kenyans.
Yes. Mobile money, lending through the mobile platforms has become a bigger thing, and people feel the bigger bulk of the society, especially the young people, are not very comfortable with the bureaucracies that our financial institutions have.
Yes.
Some have even... Some of our funds, like the Youth Fund and the Wezo Fund and some of the government funds, still feel as if they have almost similar bureaucracies. So a young person would want a quicker access to money, and options that you can be able to borrow money through the funds become more. But the challenge is you can't borrow so much through the phone. And maybe having an ability to sustain a good business might not work through this particular modality. So government still has to come back, figure out modalities that, and Youth Fund has done a lot of work, the chairman has done a lot of good work to try and, make the place a bit more friendly. But at the same time, we still have to do way more to ensure that this is accessible. Another thing is access to government procurement opportunities. As we all know, government is the biggest spender. And we want a piece of that cake to be given to young people. But some of the challenges that the young people have is that the paperwork and the complexities of actually applying for that tender are so hefty. I've participated in processes where I've trained young people, and you can hear the difficulty that they have. Even big companies get challenged when they're applying for those tenders. So maybe making the requirements a bit easier so that this person can be able to actually access. But AGPO, access to government procurement opportunities, is one thing that should be strengthened. And performance contracts given to all parastatal heads and all permanent secretaries to ensure that they actually give
disperse the funds to deserving people.
Funds to deserving people and contracts to the deserving young people.
Indeed, we unfortunately have to call it a close at that juncture. It has been a very informative conversation, and one that we will continue to come back to so that we can give a bit of direction, of course, to a youth out there who are wondering what next after the elections. That, of course, is a conversation that does continue here on KTN Business Today. A special edition to you that, of course, was being brought to cover the swearing in of President Uhuru Kenyatta for his second term.